Hello guys, this is Chuck Van Media here, and with 2022 coming to a close, I'm gonna rank my top 10 worst movies of 2022. So, without further ado, let's get started. Number 10, Easter Sunday. This movie did have a talented comedy cast, but the problem is, it could have been worse. It's just a tiring and generic holiday comedy movie that barely made me laugh. It had a generic story, and most of the humor did not really land for me. Overall, this is a really bad movie, and I did not really like it. Number 9, Pinocchio, the 2022 Disney live action remake of the 1940 animated classic. Tom Hanks is the biggest highlight for Geppetto. The CGI Pinocchio is okay, but most of the changes they did to the story really sucked so hard. This pissed me off for the most part. It feels like one of the soulless Disney live action remakes they did. Number 8, The 355. The 355 is one of the most generic action movies I have ever seen. This movie did have a potential, like, the main five protagonists are the agents. Most of the characters are dull and lack of character development. Poor action sequences from poor editing, and some of the killers are very unlikable. I wonder how they put the tagline from the studio that brought you Jason Bourne. Like, Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. I immediately laughed my ass out because these companies were not involved in the 355. Anyways, another worthy thing about the 355 is the well written final battle sequence, surprisingly. But the rest of the movie is completely forgettable. Number 7. I couldn't care less that Universal is making the Monsters movie. I really enjoyed watching the Monster show and I thought it was really funny. But now they're making the Monsters movie, which was directed by Rob Zombie. I watched it online and it was one of the most generic family horror movies I have ever seen. This movie is really bad. I don't really care for the characters as they were not as funny as the original series. The story is generic and boring, and the direction feels off. Overall, this movie made me feel I would rather watch the original TV show again than this garbage. Number 6. God have mercy. I hated Halloween so much. I guess the acting is kinda okay, I guess the soundtrack is pretty cool, and the final battle and ending were clever as well. We finally to get Laurie Strode and Michael Myers fight for the last time. And God, it's not even scary at all. And the sad thing is, Michael Myers has a little to no screen time in this film, unlike in the other films. It mostly focused on the twist villain. It's honestly the worst twist villain I have ever seen in a feature film. He has no interesting motivations, and he was eventually poorly written as the twisted killer in most of the movie. This movie made Jurassic World Dominion look like an epic conclusion to the franchise. This movie is not an epic conclusion to the franchise. It is nothing for me. And now I get really tired of having new Halloween movies in the franchise. I really want to find out today. Now we're in the top 5. So here's my top 5 worst movies of 2022. Start with number 5. Number 5. Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2022. I haven't seen the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, but this movie, I think this is laughable instead of scary. Leatherface is actually not that scary in this movie, or in this version. He he doesn't have any scary moments. It's literally no wonder why this whole movie was so laughably bad. Even the ending sucks ass. Number 4 is Firestarter 2022. Holy shit, please end my suffering. This is still the worst horror movie of this year. It really burns. This movie is an inferior version of the 1984 Firestarter movie, which is decent and much better than the 2022 shitty version. I already talked about this in my review and it still holds up. It's my fourth worst movie of this year. Fun fact, I saw this movie online before I watched the 1984 version. But anyways, fuck this remake. Moving on. Number 3, Amsterdam. Or more like Amster Sleep. Yeah, this is the most boring movie I have ever seen in my life. I guess the performances from All-Star cast are good, but that's not saying much. I don't really know what to say about this movie, but there is literally no plot or story. It's nothing but the terrible direction. It was lacking some focus, and the characters have really laughable dialogue. Literally all the characters do is just walking around and talk. It's a mystery movie but boring. There's nothing interesting going on. And there are no interesting characters. This movie gets a half out of 5 and a 1 out of 10, with a D minus for both. Moving on. Number 2. Like I said before, Morpheus is still one of the worst movies of 2022. I guess Matt Smith as the twist villain is entertaining and a lot better than the Men in Black International twist villain. The West is an absolute train wreck. It's near worthless. The action is awful. The villain doesn't have any interesting origin story. The CGI and visual effects are ugly. It has one of the laziest writing from the superhero movie. The mid-credit scene is so bad. And I don't have any high hopes for Sony's Spider-Man universe anymore. And my number 1 worst movie of 2022 is still the same. The Ice Age Adventures of Buckwild. I still rank the Ice Age spin-off movie to be the worst movie of 2022. It is worthless. It's absolutely the worst animated spin-off movie I have ever seen in my life. They don't really focus on Buckwild that often. They mainly focus on Crash and Eddie, who were annoying characters in this movie. Imagine making another Ice Age movie after Blue Sky went defunct. Of course, Disney always wanted to continue Ice Age for money. And they're currently working on another Ice Age movie. Because that's what Disney does. We got to have money. Simon Pegg's voice performance is only the worst thing in this movie. That's it. The rest is absolutely atrocious. The animation on this movie is a massive downgrade from the first 5 movies. The humor is not funny at all. The story is very terrible. The characters have no development at all. The voice acting is so bad. There is no interesting new characters. This movie makes Ice Age Collision Course look like Citizen Kane, which I would rather rewatch Ice Age Collision Course than this piece of shit spin-off, because while it's still one of the worst Fox movies, at least it still has better animation. And even better, I would rather rewatch Scratch Tales, which is the last good Ice Age project. This franchise is never gonna end thanks to Disney. I'm done with Ice Age movies nowadays. Don't make me watch another Ice Age that is still in development, because I am done with the Ice Age movies. So that's my top 10 worst movies of 2022, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!